okay? You're 27 years old. Here's this person that's raised you, loved you, taken care of you, met all your needs for 27 years. You have 30 minutes to say something profound. Go. It's like, wait a second. I did not sign up for this. This is a little bit ridiculous, especially when we're halfway in the middle of doing a sermon series about difficult or hard to interpret passages of the Bible. I thought, is this really what I want to be preaching on Mother's Day? So I didn't. I gave it a rest. So this morning we will resume our It Says What series next Sunday, because I just did not think that we wanted to be preaching on really obscure passages of Scripture on Mother's Day. I just thought that would be a no-go. So instead this morning, we're going to talk about from the story of Ruth. And what we're going to talk about this morning is a subject that I think is very relevant to motherhood. And it's this subject of, what do you do when you feel like you don't have it all together? I thought, there's a topic I can talk on for Mother's Day. I was reading a story last night from the author Neil Gaiman. He said he was at a party with a bunch of really famous people, celebrities, well-known figures, inventors, very smart people, and he was feeling kind of out of place. And so he struck up a conversation with the guy next to him because he had the same name. They were both named Neil. And he struck up a conversation with him and said, hey, this is a cool party, everything's going good. And he said he felt so much better because the guy next to him said, yeah, I look around and I see all these people, and I feel so out of place. I see all these people, and they've done these great things. They've invented these great things. They've accomplished all these great things, and I'm just a guy who went where he was told. And Neil Gaiman, the author, he looked at him and said, well, Neil, you were the first man on the moon, so that's got to count for something. And he said it was so striking to him because he said, if Neil Armstrong, the first man on the moon, could stand in a room full of people and feel insecure, then maybe it's not so much about what we have and have not accomplished, and maybe it's about a state of internal being. Maybe we're all just trying to figure it out as we go along. So if you'd open with me to Ruth chapter 1 this morning, we're going to talk about the story of Ruth. I'm going to pick up in Ruth 1:1 says this, and it came to pass in the days when the judges judged that there was a famine in the land. And a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife was Naomi, and the name of his 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah. And they came into the country of Moab, and they lived there. And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left and her 2 sons. And they took them wives of the women of Moab. The name of one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth. And they dwelt there about 10 years. And Mahlon and Chilion died both of them, and the woman was left of her 2 children and of her husband. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law that she might return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab how that Jehovah had visited his people in giving them bread. So we start out with the story of this woman, Naomi. And she's a woman who's experienced great tragedy. In the course of a short period of time, she's lost her husband and her 2 sons. And so it's just her and the daughters-in-law. Now, because of Old Testament custom, there would have been a lot more family closeness that would have gone on there. You see, in a situation where Naomi's husband would have died first, and it would have been up to the oldest son and his family to help care for her, make sure she had a place to live, make sure she was taken care of, and then in the event of losing the older son, it would have been the younger son's responsibility to take care of both their mother-in-law and their sister-in-law. But this is a unique situation in that all of the men in this story are gone. This is sort of like the Steel Magnolias of Bible stories. There's no men anywhere to be found. It's just Julia Roberts and Sally Field and Dolly Parton hanging out for days. At least that's how I imagine the movie version of this story. And so it creates this interesting dynamic because in Old Testament custom, or at least the way that it was set up, it was all about these women being cared for by the men in the family. And in this story, all the men have gone, and now we have a mother-in-law who's supposed to be taken care of by the daughters-in-law who are supposed to be taken care of by whom? So they create out of this little family we're going to continue to read about. We're going to pick up in 7. It says that she went forth out of the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her, and they went on the way to return unto the land of Judah. And Naomi said unto her 2 daughters-in-law, Go, return each of you to her mother's house. I need to take a drink during that pause so it'll look more natural. Her mother's house, Jehovah deal kindly with you as ye have dealt with the dead and with me. Jehovah grant you that ye may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband. And she kissed them, and they lift up their voice, and they wept. You see, what Naomi was doing here was the right thing, according to custom. She said, you go, you remarry, you find husbands, you start again. These were presumably fairly young women, and this would have been okay according to the Jewish custom of the day. He said, go, you remarry, you find husbands, you be good. You do what you do. This was the appropriate thing for Naomi to do. This was the right thing for her to do, to send them away. Verse 10, they said unto her, Nay, but we will return with thee unto thy people. And Naomi said, Turn again, my daughters, why will ye go with me? Have I yet sons in my womb, that they may be your husbands? Turn again, my daughters, go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say, I have hope, if I should even have a husband tonight, and should also bear sons, would ye therefore tarry till they were grown? Would ye therefore stay from having husbands? Nay, my daughter, it grieveth me much for your sake. We're reading this in Old Testament language, but I like the way it sounds. Maybe I feel like I'm doing this Macbeth again. For the hand of Jehovah is gone forth against me. And they lifted up their voice and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clave unto her. She clung to her. She stayed with her. And she said, Behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back unto her people and unto her God. Return thou after thy sister-in-law. And Ruth said, I'm going to read this in the NIV. Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me. When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped urging her. This is a fascinating piece of scripture, because this is not what would have been timely or appropriate for the time. You see, these women still had the opportunity to get married, to have husbands, to have children, to have families, to accomplish what it was they felt set out to accomplish, to continue the bloodline, to go on, to do what they felt they had been tasked to do. And yet there was such bond between Ruth and Naomi, between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. They felt such affection towards one another that Ruth said, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. You know, I was thinking about this passage as I was thinking about Mother's Day because, you know, I'm lucky and I'm blessed to be raised by 2 of the most incredible women ever that raised me to do anything and everything, that raised me up to be a man of faith, that raised me up to be, you know, the person I am today. I'm very blessed. But I acknowledge that not everybody has that same relationship with their parents. You know, some people have difficult relationships with their parents. Some people have strained relationships with their parents. Some of you have strained relationships with your children. Some of you have strange relationships with your children. Some of you have strange relationships with your children that are sitting right next to you. Some of us have difficult relationships. Some of us have lost parents. Some of us have lost children. Some of us have walked hard roads. And so it's naive for me to stand up here on Mother's Day and go, ain't moms great? We all have great moms and everything's great and the world is great, fantastic, amen, let's go to Old Country Buffet. It would be incredibly naive of me to stand up here and preach a sermon like that because that's not real. That's not real life. It's not real life for anybody. It's not real life even in Scripture. And so instead this morning, what I wanted to tackle, and what I wanted to begin to try and piece apart, is motherhood as I understand it, which, Lord knows, isn't much, isn't anything, frankly. But as I was thinking of it, I thought of this story, because I thought of, who are the people in your life that have loved you when they didn't have to? Who are the people in your life, motherhood in action as I understand it, Who are the people in your life that you have loved when you didn't have to? This is the beauty of the story of Naomi and Ruth. We don't get that much about Ruth's family. We know that she's not from a place where they worship Jehovah God, because Naomi is constantly trying to send her back to her people and to her God. So we know that she comes from a very different background from Naomi, and that probably made for a little bit of an interesting dynamic at home. You know, it's always interesting when you meet the parents of someone you're in a relationship with, or you bring someone you're in a relationship home to meet your parents. You know, it's better than in this situation where they probably would have worshipped some sort of golden idol or something, or had some sort of strange ritual sacrifice going on. That's a little more difficult to explain to the in-laws. But there was something about the way Ruth was treated by Naomi that stuck with her, that bonded these two women together. And I think that's a lovely thought. I think it's lovely that the way that you treat people matters. The way that you treat people can make a lifelong difference in their lives. I remember I was just telling a story this week about some friends I had when I was in college. When I was a freshman in college, I lost a best friend who was attending the college. We attended high school together. I lost a best friend, and I remember feeling very lost, very wandering around. I was 17, just barely 17 years old at the time, just feeling very lost and very wandering around. And I remember a couple of Carl's friends had kind of started this Bible study that was really a Bible study / support group. And I remember they invited me in. And they said, come join us. I didn't know any of these people. I was a freshman. They were all upperclassmen. I was, 17. They were like 20, which when you're 17 is like, you might as well be 40, 45. If you're 20, if you're 21, you're like, whoa, man, it's so cool. Have you started collecting Social Security yet? I think that's awesome. And now I'm 27, and I'm like, oh man, whatever. It's not old. Like, you're not old till you get to like 40. Then I say that because I know it's going to be archived forever in the future, and somebody's going to play this for me in the future. But I remember their kindness to me when they didn't have to be. I remember them bringing me in. I remember them loving me. I remember them calling me on the phone. I remember them texting me. I remember them stopping by to see me just to see how I was. They didn't know me from Adam. They didn't have any connection with me, any relationship with me, but they loved me when they didn't have to, and it stuck with me. All they did 10 years ago now. It stuck with me. I remember when I first got into youth ministry, I had a couple students that had never really been in youth group before and had never really been in church before. And so they didn't quite understand the whole having a youth pastor thing. That like, I'm this guy who now like cares about whether you live or die. Like that stuff is important to me. And I just remember, kids, I just text them out, hey, how's it going? How's your day going? And they'd be like, good. What do you need? Like, nothing. I just want to see how your day's going. I just want to see what's going on. Okay, but why? Like, because I don't really know how to answer that. I don't know. I'm your youth pastor. I love you. I care about you. I want you to be good. I want you, to not, fall off a cliff or anything. I want you to be. I just want to know how you're doing. It's like, okay. Then I remember it being so funny to me because I was raised in a pretty warm, loving environment. I was raised in church. So I was used to people caring about me. I got this crazy idea somewhere that I have intrinsic worth and value as a person that I'm worth caring about. Church, not everyone you meet believes that about themselves. Not everyone you meet believes that they're worth caring about. This was a crazy, difficult, slap-me-in-the-face truth when I first got into ministry, was sometimes you have to convince people to let you love them. This is sort of this whole Naomi and Ruth situation, is where Ruth is saying, I'm sticking with you, I'm sticking with you, I'm sticking with you, and Naomi sees herself as valueless. She says, I have no husband. I'm probably never going to remarry. I'm definitely never going to have kids. I offer nothing to no one. Go, you're free of me. You're rid of me. But Naomi had value because Ruth saw value in her. Naomi had value because God valued her, of course, we know that. But she felt that she had value because Ruth saw value in her. We have the opportunity as people to create that sense of value in someone else by valuing them. We have that opportunity to show them how much God values them and cares about them by valuing them and caring about them. By calling somebody, by shooting them a text, by remembering something they said. I was working as a youth pastor, and I really wanted to be very good at it. I really tried, and so I had this thing that I would do. This was especially when I first got to the church in Davison, and there was like a lot of kids there, like elementary age kids. And I thought, okay, I'm never going to remember all these kids and everything that they're doing and all this stuff that's going on. So I had a system, right? I would remember one thing about every kid, and that's what we would talk about. That would be our talking point every Sunday, was whatever one thing I remembered about that kid. So they, kids, they tell you 100 things. All the stuff going on in their lives, their full list of classes, all of their teachers' names, the names of every one of their goldfish, everything that's going on in their life, everything that's ever happened to them. But I said, I don't need to know that. I don't need to know about Skippy the goldfish. I need to know one thing. One thing. And so we had a kid who I remember specifically was a shortstop. And every time I saw him, I couldn't remember anything about him. I couldn't remember which parents he belonged to. I couldn't remember which siblings he belonged to. Couldn't remember anything. But I remember his name was Logan, and he was a shortstop. And so I'd see him outside, I'd go, hey, Logan! And the next thing in my mouth, how's baseball? How's it going? You make any crazy double plays sitting over there at shortstop? You know that place you stand right between second and third base? Shortstop? Living like all the other famous shortstops in Major League Baseball history, fielding the balls, probably batting somewhere in the middle late of the lineup. Shortstop. No. He didn't know that all I knew about him was that he was a shortstop. He probably just thought I was really weirdly into baseball, which I am not. But I thought, if I can make this kid know that he's important to me, because he is, then maybe he'll believe he's important to God. And maybe he'll believe he's important. These are the things that I think of as I begin to prepare a Mother's Day sermon this week is what is it that motherhood means to me? It's somebody that makes you feel valued. It's somebody that makes you feel important. It's somebody that loves you. We're going to keep going. Ruth 1:19 says this. So the two women went on until they came to Bethlehem. When they arrived in Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them, and the women exclaimed, "Can this be Naomi?" "Don't call me Naomi," she told them. "Call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune on me." So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, arriving in Bethlehem as the barley harvest was beginning. This is something I want you all to catch. Having Ruth in her life didn't fix all of Naomi's problems. She didn't walk away from this situation going, you know what, my husband died, my two sons are died, but I got this great new daughter-in-law, so everything's fine. We're doing great. No. She was wounded. She was hurt. She was grieving. She was in pain. We can't fix all of each other's problems. It's not our job. You were not meant to go into someone's life and solve all of their problems. This is difficult for me to hear said out loud because I am a fixer. I am a fixer of epic and horrifying proportions. I like to solve problems. I like puzzles. I like Sudoku. I like video games that have a concrete ending. I like to solve problems. But when it comes to the way I love other people, it's not my job. I have to love them, serve them in the ways that God has set in front of me, and allow God to do His job. I hate that, because I'm always trying to take God's job. I'm always trying to put Him out of work, all the time. I try and put God out of work by fixing people. I try and put God out of work by having my own awesome plans. I try and put God out of work by being a know-it-all. All the time, I'm trying to get God to retire. I'm just trying to push Him right out of the company. But you know what? Every time I try and replace God, you know what I find out? He's a lot better at His job than I am.
Amen.
A lot better. I am not good. Not good at being God. And so what I love about the story of Ruth and Naomi is that it doesn't have this wonderful, happy conclusion where it's like, well, you know, all these people died, but she lived happily ever after and it was really good. No. She says, call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. These are not the verses you're putting on a wooden wall hanging and putting in your kitchen. These are not the things that you're setting as your phone background. But, church, I feel that they exemplify part of what God is trying to tell us in this story. Because all of these things go on. She says, life has made me bitter. I went away full and I came back empty. Misfortune has come upon me. I have been afflicted. But don't miss what happens here in verse 22. It says, so Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law. There it is. She wasn't fixed by her. Her problems weren't solved. She wasn't made happy. She wasn't... All Ruth could do was be with her. And so that's exactly what she did. She said, where you go, I will go. Where you live, I will live. And that's exactly what she did. She loved her when she didn't have to. She was with her when it was difficult. This is what I love about this story. This is a story, as I was preparing to talk about Mother's Day, that I wanted to talk about. Because I want to talk about people who love you when you're difficult. I want to talk about people who loved me when I was difficult. I am blessed to have family that loved me when I was difficult, when I am difficult, present tense. Some of you may have fantastic relationships with your mom. Some of you may have fantastic relationships with your children, and God bless you. What a blessing it is to have family that loves you. Some of you may have difficult relationships with your moms and difficult relationships with your children. That's okay. You haven't failed as a mother or as a child if you are in the middle of a difficult relationship. Because you are in the middle of it. It is not the beginning, it's not the end. You're in the middle of a relationship. A relationship where neither one of you can fix the other. A relationship where neither one of you can solve the other's problems. A relationship where all you can try and do is be with them and love them in difficult circumstances. Will you succeed at times? Sure. Will you fail at times? Absolutely, we all do. But be encouraged this morning. If your relationship with your parent or with your child is not where you would like it to be, but that's okay. Things are being worked out. Maybe you're a person who's lost a mother. Maybe you're a person who's lost a child. First, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I can't imagine what it's like to grieve that. I can't even imagine to put myself in those shoes. But know this. even after experiencing loss, that relationship is still not over. Because the love that you were shown and the love that you showed made a difference and continues to make a difference. It will live on. And I know that's so cheesy and it's so hallmarky to say, hey, they live on in you forever. It's very cheesy. But you know what? All that aside, it's true. It's true. The way you loved someone in their life matters. Just like the way that person loved you in their life matters. I was listening to a podcast this week from the guy who won Survivor this year. Guy who won Survivor, the last season of Survivor, won the show. His mom was dealing with lung cancer, got home from Final Tribal Council, flew home from, I think they were in Samoa, flew home from Samoa, landed, told his mom he won Survivor and that he loved her, and she passed away a couple hours later. This is his first Mother's Day without her, and so the guy who was interviewing him said, Adam, how are you going to deal with this first Mother's Day? And he said, I don't know. He said it's terrible. He said this whole thing is terrible. And I admit I laughed out loud in my car because I thought, what a brilliantly honest answer to that question. He said, I don't know. It's terrible. He said, but every day I wake up and I remember that my mom loved to run, loved to be outside, loved music festivals, was walking around the block the day before she passed away, was planning a trip to the music festival the next month, the week before she passed. And he said, so I'm just going to try on Sunday and every day to just kind of live like my mom did. I thought, what a lovely thought. What a lovely thought to carry on someone's legacy in that way. Just to live like they would have lived. The point this morning is this. Even on Mother's Day, even on these Hallmark holidays, even on the midst of these days where we feel like we're supposed to experience so much happiness, life still happens. We are still people in the midst of sometimes difficult times, difficult relationships, and difficult circumstances. And that's okay. Even in the midst of times of joy and celebration, it's okay to be broken people. Because that's what we are. It's okay to be flawed. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to not have the perfect relationships. It's okay to make mistakes. Because all that matters at the end of the day is that you say to the people you love, I'm with you. I'm here with you. All that matters at the end of the day is that we say to the people who matter to us, I'm here. Where you go, I'll go. Where you be, I'll be. We don't have to fix anybody. We don't have to solve anybody's problems. We don't have to be anybody's Superman. All we have to do is what we can do. And that is stand present with the ones that we love and say, I'm here with you. I'm grateful to have had strong women in my life who have stood with me through all sorts of stuff. And I'm proud to stand with them. I'm grateful this morning to have had a lot of people in my life that have stood with me in difficult times. I am proud to stand with them. I am grateful this morning to serve all of you and to stand with you. And I hope this morning that you can take an opportunity to honor those people who have stood with you and to continue to honor them by standing with the people who need you. Would you bow your heads with me? Father God, we are so grateful this morning for all of the mothers who are here this morning. Would you bless them? Would you be with them this morning? And Lord, I'm grateful for all of us who represent mothers. Great mothers, strong mothers, mothers with whom we have great relationships, mothers with whom we have difficult and challenging relationships, mothers whom we loved who have passed on into glory. We are grateful for all of them. We are grateful for what they represent in our hearts this morning. Lord, would you remind us this morning that we don't have to fix anybody. We don't have to solve anybody's problems. All we have to do is what we can do. And that is to stand with the ones we love. To be with them. To be present with them in times good and bad. And to say, I'm with you. We love you. And in your name we pray. Amen. In the back this morning, we have some roses, I believe, for the mothers who are here with us this morning. So on your way out, stop and grab one. Thank you all for being here this morning. Be blessed as you go.